Hey friends, before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share something incredibly important with you. For over a decade, through my private practice and through my work at Nurtured First, I've been teaching body safety to kids and their parents, covering essential topics like secrets, tricky people, consent, and using a strong voice. I know these conversations can feel challenging. It's tough to balance being informative and scaring your child. That's why I'm thrilled to introduce you to the Body Safety Toolkit from Nurtured First. This toolkit is designed to make these crucial conversations easier and more approachable. With engaging coloring sheets, activities, games, and helpful scripts, it's all crafted to teach your child about body safety in a way that feels safe and empowering. Through this Body Safety Toolkit, it's a printable toolkit. Your child will learn the difference between secrets and surprises, how to identify unsafe behavior, how to use a strong voice and stand up for themselves, the difference between private and public body parts, what consent really is, and so much more. You can get your own printable copy of the Body Safety Toolkit today by heading to the link in the show notes. Also, we made a special code just for podcast listeners. Use the code ROBOTUNICORN to save 10%. Again, go to the link in the show notes and grab the Body Safety Toolkit at a special discount only for podcast listeners. Use the code ROBOTUNICORN, all one word, to get 10% off. Take this small step towards making a big difference and keeping your children safe and informed. All right, now let's get into the show. Welcome to Robot Unicorn. We are so glad that you are here. As always, let's start the show with a question from Scott.
Okay, I do actually have a list of questions, so I'll keep my phone handy. Hopefully people don't get mad at me for doing the same thing that you did to me.
Oh, I know. I got in trouble on Instagram. We posted a reel and I was reading Q&As and Scott was talking and a whole bunch of people were messaging me saying that they felt I was rude to Scott.
Thank you for always coming in to my
I feel like the audience is always in your defense.
I know.
Like maybe one day I'll be stood up for.
Well, some people have stood up for you too. They think I tease you too much.
Oh yeah, someone did say that. They were worried that you tease me too much.
Yeah. Which is an amazing segue actually into today's topic.
That might be the best segue you've had so far.
Wow. It's almost as though I'm learning how to do this. No.
All right, well, we'll see.
Okay. Jess and I want to talk about teasing our kids. And I've had a few questions rolling in my mind about this topic because as people may become maybe more aware of now, I love teasing. Mm-hmm. It's my love language. It's something that I don't know, I enjoy just poking fun and teasing and you do it to me in return.
I'm very serious.
Yeah, of course. But it's something that I do with our girls too.
Yeah, I'd say we're quite playful with them.
Yeah.
We tease them, but I feel like the word tease
there's a negative connotation that comes along with the word tease.
And that's kind of what we want to talk about today. Like, when is it negative, right?
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, are there negative effects to teasing your kids? Or is there a line at which it's too far? Because I've noticed, especially with our oldest daughter, she's starting to get to the point where she actually kind of becomes embarrassed and like doesn't want us to do certain things in front of her friends or her classmates that previously she wouldn't have cared about.
Yeah.
And now she's getting to that point where she's like, not that she's self-conscious, but she's aware of the fact that there are other kids around and that they might think something that we do or say is a little bit weird or it's making fun of her. Not that we necessarily make fun of her, but I think she's aware that other kids might find our dynamic a little funny.
Right. It's like something that's like maybe an inside joke in the home or something we say to like bug her in the home that she finds funny. In the home, like she'll laugh about it, but then she has expressed to us, and we're not going to share specifically what it is, again, because we don't want to embarrass her, but she's expressed to us that if we said the same thing that's funny in the home in front of her friends, that would be embarrassing and she would not like that. Which I actually think, like, to start, when your child sets that boundary with you, you have to respect it.
Yeah, but do you think all kids would do that? Like,
no, but I think the fact that she did is huge.
She's a pretty confident little girl, but I just wonder, like, at that age, would you have done the same thing?
I'm similar to our oldest daughter. I think I did set those boundaries with my parents. And they were pretty good at respecting it. Because my parents were also, there was a lot of joking and teasing. There still is when I'm around my family. And we have a lot of fun together. We do a lot of laughing. And I do remember times when I would say like, but please don't say this in front of so-and-so. And that would be respected.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I would have said that. But I know a lot of people when they were young didn't feel like they had a voice to say that.
Okay, so going back to my original question, is there a point at which it's too far? Is like playfulness, teasing okay? Tell me, parenting expert, what are we supposed to do?
I almost want to flip it back to you and say, can you think of a time when maybe it did go too far?
Not off the top of my head, honestly.
I can.
When I did it too far?
No, me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel like for myself, I am so aware of what could potentially be embarrassing. I'm like hyper aware.
Well, because you're easily embarrassed.
Am I easily embarrassed? Maybe. I don't know.
I feel like you're a little more like,
I have a protective layer, trying to make sure that I look a certain way.
let's unpack that. Okay, that's a whole other
That's
episode.
trauma.
Okay. No, I want to tell you a story of a time when I took teasing and I didn't think about the way it would impact our daughter. So she had this school picture and it was so cute. And this was a few years ago. And in the picture, she had this smile and it's a smile she never does. Like I've never seen this girl smile in this way before. And the picture was adorable. Like I loved it. And she was probably 5 at the time, maybe 6.
Yeah, she was in senior kindergarten.
Yeah, so 5 or 6. And I saw the picture and my first thing I said was, what's that smile? And I started kind of bugging her. I'm like, I've never seen you smile like that before. What's with that smile in this picture? And for me, it was coming from a place of like, I think this is so cute. But at that time, 5 or 6, she didn't understand yet that was me being like, you're so cute. This is why I'm saying this. And she didn't tell us right away, but she took it as, you didn't like my smile in this picture. And then a while later, my cousin actually caught her practicing how to smile in a mirror. And she said, well, mommy didn't like my smile in my school picture.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a perfect example of like, I'm just trying to be playful and I think she's cute and I actually don't mean anything mean by it. But she, because she's a child with a brain that hasn't developed yet at that age, the ability to understand humor or understand that I'm actually meaning well and I think she looks so cute. She took that as, mommy doesn't like my smile, I better practice.
It's more, I think, from what I've just seen, and this is anecdotally that I've seen, we have 3 kids at different ages. Each of them understands humor, but the older they get, the more nuance they understand. So our oldest might understand sarcasm, but our 4-year-old
doesn't get it
and thinks you're always serious with whatever you say. So if you say, I'm going to eat your legs or something like that,
she'll be like, no, don't eat my egg.
Yeah. So you can't use that joke around her because she doesn't understand the nuance of or different styles of humor.
Yeah. So I think to go back to your original question, when does teasing go too far? I think we need to understand that teasing and humor is a skill and something that develops as your child's brain matures. And so be mindful that sometimes the jokes that you think might be funny or playful or good in nature might actually be hurtful to them. Especially for me, that situation was really eye-opening. I felt super bad about it. And
that's pretty sad.
It reminded me that especially jokes about appearance should be off the table. Mm-hmm. I even think, even when they start to understand humor, we take any jokes about appearance off the table. I would never joke about their size or their smile. I just think that sets us up for making them feel self-conscious.
I'm trying to think is that actually always the case?
I don't know. Can you think of an exception to that rule?
I don't think so. But yeah, I'm just wondering, is there can you say such a black and white thing? We never do anything based on appearance. I mean, our oldest has no problem teasing us about how we're getting old.
Well, she does like to tease us. So
she just drew a picture of both of us recently and had
shared
wrinkles on our foreheads and wrinkles under our eyes, wrinkles by our nose.
And I said, do you really think I look that wrinkly? She goes, yeah. What?
She actually said the opposite to me because I asked
Oh, really?
That's funny. I asked the same question. And she's like, no, I just think it's funny.
So I will say that in the example I gave, she was 5, she was young, she didn't understand humor. Now she's turning 8 this year, and I feel like she understands humor in a deeper way.
Yeah. Again, she understood humor, but she just didn't understand the nuance of the ribbing or teasing that you were giving her.
Yeah, she didn't understand the nuance.
I think it's different than saying she doesn't understand humor, no? You're saying she doesn't understand humor at 5 or 6, but that's not true.
Oh, yeah. The understanding's just different. and the nuance might not be there. So maybe let's talk about that. Like, what does appropriate teasing playfulness look like kind of across the ages and stages? And then how do you stop yourself from embarrassing your kids? Like, where's that line from you're being mean or you're being embarrassing to you're being playful and teasing and having fun in the home?
I don't know. I feel like I'm quite conscious of what could be potentially embarrassing for them. So I don't, like, for myself, I don't know that maybe I should ask our girls, I don't know, tonight when we get home, if there's anything I've ever done that's embarrassed them.
So for you, where's that line? Where's the line between embarrassing and teasing?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just such an expert at teasing that it's just like so natural to me that I don't even think about it. But like the style of humor that I use with each of them is very different. Like with our youngest, I'll just play like a game that's, I guess it's not teasing, it's just being playful. I'm like kind of wrestling with her or whatever. And then she'll say stop and then I stop. Nothing there could be embarrassing. But that's the style of fun or humor that she would understand. Or I pretend to be a funny animal or something like that. And then with our middle daughter, who's 4, that might be, I don't know, like last night before bed, we were wrestling on our bed and I was picking her up and then dropping her on our bed. And then we were jumping. Right now, we're in the midst of moving. So we have the girls' mattresses on the floor. We created mega bed and we were pretending they were boats and she was jumping from one to the other. And I would accidentally fall into the water and she would start giggling and like that kind of humor. Mm-hmm. But I know for her, I've recognize that she takes it way too seriously if I say, I don't know, like I'm a dinosaur and I'm going to eat you up or something like that.
Yeah, she does not understand that
she thinks you're being serious when you say that you're going to eat her. So then she doesn't like that as much.
And I think especially with our 4-year-old, she's very sensitive. She takes on...
Yeah, she's probably more like me that way, right?
She's more like you. She takes on other people's emotions quickly. And she also would be one to like sit and think. So if you made a teasing kind of comment to her about anything, and I think it's important that parents recognize this because a lot of times parents, grandparents, they'll tease kids. Like I remember one time we were in a restaurant, someone teased our kid, oh, you're such a big eater. You ate every single thing on your plate and look at that belly. Like,
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know if you were there or not. This was a long time ago with our oldest. And they were talking about her big belly. And I think culturally this person meant well, but I could see her like look down at her belly, right? And be like, oh, you know, and I think that we really need to be mindful, especially with all kids. We should not be teasing them about things that they can't understand or that they might think is real, right? So I think of that a lot with our 4-year-old because I know she'd be one to internalize teasing if it goes too far. So I'm also very mindful about the way we play with her or the way we tease her because I know she'll take it on and she'll remember. And like 5 weeks later, she would tell us if we said something, right?
Yeah, I mean, there have been times where we have a conversation. Like she was asking about my family, like the family dynamics that I have.
Yeah.
And I would mention something to her and I would think she's not paying attention. She doesn't really care. But all of a sudden, 2 nights later, I'd be putting her to bed and she'd be asking me a question directly from the conversation that I had with her that I thought she wasn't even paying attention to.
Yeah.
Some kids are like that where they will act as though they don't care or they're not internalizing what you're saying, but then several days later, they're still thinking about it.
And I would say the same goes, and we'll talk about the older kids, but the same goes for the interactions that we are having. Like, I feel like maybe that's been more of an issue for our kids, maybe not, where we will tease each other, but they won't always understand that we're not fighting, you know?
That's true.
Remember? So you guys know, if you listen to the podcast, Scott and I tease each other pretty good, and we like to just joke and we'll pretend we're angry at each other, but we're actually not. And we'll do that at home too. Like we tease each other quite a bit at home. And I remember one time we were teasing each other, kind of bickering, but we weren't actually angry at each other at all. And our oldest caught on just to the conversation. I don't know if you remember this a couple years ago. And she sat us down. She literally separated us. So she thought we were actually fighting. We weren't. She separated us. So she brought me to my room. She brought Scott to her room. Said, you guys need a break from each other. So she did like what we might do, parenting. Then she sat with each of us. And at first we thought she was in on the joke.
Yeah, we thought she was a part of the joke.
Yeah, we thought she just knew we were joking and was making this whole big, you know, dramatized thing out of it. And then eventually we realized, oh no, she's serious. Like she genuinely thinks Scott and I are fighting right now. And she's genuinely trying to give us a break from each other, calm us both down, and then bring us back together, which I mean is so mature of her, but also totally not her responsibility. And also totally, we weren't even mad.
No, not at all. We were joking with each other and pretending we were.
So when we recognized that, we were like, oh no, she, again, at that age, probably around 5 or 6, did not understand that the conversation that we were having was playful and teasing and just funny and thought it was serious. And so then we had to actually stop her. We all came together and we had to talk about how we were actually just joking. We weren't actually mad at each other. But ever since that interaction, I've been very mindful about the way we tease each other in front of the kids. I don't want them to think that we're actually fighting. I don't want them to think that we don't like each other. And I don't want them to take on our tone, right? So if we have like a tone of annoyance towards each other, but we know we're two like mature adults who spend literally every single hour of every single day together. So sometimes we just are like that. That doesn't mean it's okay.
In a nicer way, Jess.
It doesn't mean it's okay for them to talk to their friends in that tone, right? Because we're playing. Someone said the other day, like, you and Scott are so flirty with each other. I was like, oh boy.
Are we?
Oh boy. Is this flirting? I don't know. But like we're being playful with each other, but they might hear our tone and then use it with a friend, but that's actually not appropriate. So I feel like that's where humor can start to have these more nuanced conversations that we can now have with our now almost 8-year-old.
Yeah.
So to circle back to the question of the different stages. So now with our older daughter, and as she gets older, humor looks a little bit different. I think she's able to understand now this element of playfulness.
Oh, yeah.
And she'll give it back to us. And again, that's our family, that's our dynamic, that's our values. Every person might have humor look a different way. I actually would love to hear people's experiences with humor. Like I've always wanted to talk to Nurture First audience about this, and now I can talk to Robot Unicorn. Like, because so many families are like, I didn't grow up in a funny family. Like we never joked, we never had humor. I'm curious about you. Like, was there joking ever in the house? Humor?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there was some. It's all clouded over by trauma.
Because I feel like for me growing up, like laughter,
that's
funny,
always been a part of.
That was such a big part of my family, what brought us together, watching funny movies and shows, laughing together, making jokes.
Yeah, that's why I enjoyed hanging out with your family. Because even like watching The Office, you and your dad have contagious laughter. So as soon as you start laughing, everyone else starts laughing along with you.
Yeah. And we both enjoy funny things a lot. Like something people don't know about me is like I love watching comedy and studying
Jess thinks
comedians.
she could become a stand-up comedian.
I told Scott, and then I tried.
He's convinced.
Like, I said in my second career. Like well, I'll never retire, let's be honest. But maybe when I'm like 70 and I'm still doing the work as a therapist, because I'll do this forever. But then maybe as like a retirement gig, I'll also do some comedy.
That's what you will do, yeah.
Scott doesn't think I'm funny enough for that. And then he was like, well, like, show me what you would do. And I literally could not think of one thing that I would say.
Show me. I put you on the spot.
I was like, I actually have nothing. But I do love like studying comedians, watching comedy. Anyway, it's a big part for me. I really enjoy that, actually.
I think the biggest thing is we are just constantly sarcastic with each other.
Yeah.
Which I recognize might be the lowest form of humor, but
it
makes us laugh.
What I wanted to talk about, though, is, and you're going to not like this.
Oh, no.
But when you're talking about being playful with your kids, that's kind of a separate thing. When you're talking about joking with them, it has to stem from a secure relationship, right? Because if you made some sarcastic jokes to me, you know me so well that you know I'm not actually going to be offended by it. And same back for you. Like
I've actually been worried about our team at times because we are so sarcastic with each other that it could seem like we are
mad at each other.
Yeah, mad at each other. But I think everyone gets it now.
And you know my limits, right? Yeah. You know there are certain things.
And I will always push past those limits.
No, you don't. But you know that there are certain things that I do not find funny. And if you try to tease me about it, it will make me mad.
Yep.
So you know the boundary. And I know the boundary for you.
I don't have any boundary. Do I?
I can't say you'd be too offended. I just know. I just secretly know the boundaries. I'm not going to tell you because then you'd be offended. But with our children, we need to have that same thing, right? You can't just go and start being sarcastic with your kids if you don't have that foundation of that relationship with them and you also don't know their boundaries. right? Like, what will they actually find funny and what is rude? And I think a lot of people who follow this page grew up in a home where people thought they were being funny and it wasn't funny and it was very offensive and it impacted them long term.
Is that just a lack of self-awareness though? Joking to that extent that you don't recognize that it, like, I just feel like that's such a lack of
attunement to your child. It's a lack of self-awareness. And it's also often like a deflection, right? Like I'll tease my child, ha ha ha, that's so funny to me. But it's not actually like a back and forth. It's a power dynamic, or it's I don't want to feel my own feelings, so I'm just going to make fun of them, right? So for example, you'd never make fun of a child for crying, right? Like, oh, look, they're such a baby. Like that's actual teasing. That's harmful and hurtful.
Yeah, right.
That's very different than I'm going to get you, I'm going to bite your leg or whatever you say. That's not actually, like, you're never going to do that. You're just
pretend to be a dinosaur.
Trying to get a rise out of them. That's very different.
Yeah.
And I would never want a parent to hear us that, like, we're sarcastic or we're teasing our kids, to think that we're teasing them about things that would actually be offensive. Like teasing them about their bodies, teasing them about their emotions, teasing them about
their ability to learn things.
Yeah, their ability to learn things, sports, how much they eat. That's a big one. A lot of people will talk to me about, like, oh, I was always teased for being a big eater. And then I started to become super self-conscious about how much I would eat. And then I would stop eating so much. Or even people will talk to me about things like they would be teased for their bowel movements, or they'd be teased for like their body odor. So that's the line. Like if you want to say, where's the line? We're not actually ever teasing kids about things that are real and like can impact them long term.
Yeah.
Like think about how you would feel if you were teased for the size of your belly, or you were teased for your body odor, or you were teased for how poorly you did on a test. Like that would never feel good. So we really need to be mindful of the language that we're using when we're teasing kids. And I see that this still happens. It's not like this is not an issue anymore. Hey friends, I'm interrupting today's show for a minute because I wanted to remind you about our body safety toolkit. As you may or may not know, outside of being the host of Robot Unicorn, I am also the founder and CEO of Nurtured First. Through Nurtured First, we provide educational resources like courses, blogs, and printable toolkits to help parents and caregivers raise children in safe and loving homes. Just over a year ago, the team at Nurtured First and I created the Body Safety Toolkit. This toolkit is meant to help you teach your child all about body safety and help them learn how to stand up for themselves, identify abuse, and keep their bodies safe in a very approachable and non-scary way. Here's a few quick facts. It's meant to do with your children. It's not a course. It's a printable toolkit filled with coloring and worksheets and games and activities. It was created for kids aged 3 to 9. It covers how to teach your kids about consent, strangers, using a strong voice, private places, red flags, and more. I've used this toolkit with my own daughters to help them learn about body safety. I love seeing their confidence to say no and stand up for themselves grow as we've used this toolkit. To grab the printable toolkit, simply head to the show notes and you'll see a link for the Body Safety Toolkit. Plus, just for you as a podcast listener, use the code ROBOTUNICORN, all one word, no spaces, to save 10% on the toolkit. Again, use the code ROBOTUNICORN to save 10%. Can't wait to help you teach your kids about body safety. You've got this. Now let's head right back to the show.
So I can imagine some parents will be like, you're ruining humor and fun by saying this.
So let's talk about some examples of ways that we can have fun and be playful and interact with our kids in a way that does bring humor. Should we introduce people to Sean?
Well, Sean was taken from Bluey.
Yeah.
But Sean has taken on a whole new level in our house.
Okay, so Sean, if you haven't watched Bluey, I'm not going to do it. But
yeah, can you please do... I don't even know. Jess needed to start writing all of her different characters in a note because...
Okay. So let's just talk about who Sean is. Sean is a hand puppet on Bluey. Now I'm doing it.
It's I think an emu or something like that.
Looks like this. I think it's an emu. And on Bluey, the dad does Sean one day. And like basically he's like a hand puppet to the kids. And the kids giggle and think it's hilarious. So that's where it started. But for me, where it started is when I was a child therapist. Well, I still am. But when I was seeing kids all the time, I would always use puppets. Because puppets are an incredible way to get children to open up and talk.
Honestly, it is the most mind-blowing, weirdest thing to me.
Scott was skeptical.
I did not believe that it would work, and then Jess showed me one day with one of the puppets she was using with children in therapy, and I do not understand how it works so effectively.
Yeah, if you want your child to open up about something and you're like, I don't know how to get them to talk, use a hand puppet. Like, just you don't even need a real puppet, just use your hand.
It is the most ridiculous thing to me, how effective that is.
So I've always used puppets, and as a child therapist, they're one of my favorite tools to get children to open up. But the girls saw Sean on the TV, so then they asked me one time, Mommy, be Sean. So I'm like, okay, no problem. So then I developed this character named Sean, who is a hand puppet. And I start using this hand puppet fairly often. So like we're in the car and the kids are screaming in the back. Then all of a sudden Sean's like, why are you screaming in the back? You know, Sean starts talking to the kids in the back seat, and the girls just every time erupt in giggles. Like, this is the best thing ever. And they start to truly believe that Sean, my hand puppet, is a fully different person than me.
Completely differentiated from Jess.
Yeah, completely different. Like, as soon as I bring Sean out, it's like, oh, Sean. And they're all hugging my hand. They're all talking to Sean. I would do Sean at bedtime. So I'd like shine a flashlight on the ceiling and I'd do Sean on the ceiling.
I actually do laugh at your little puppet shows that you put on.
Yeah.
And they're quite hilarious.
And the puppet shows will come out at any time. Like, you just never know when Sean, like, we'll be at the dinner table and all of a sudden Sean's like, oh, hi, girls. Okay, so it started there. It started with Sean just like as a hand puppet. But then I decided, you know what, I'm getting bored of playing Sean all the time with these kids. So I'm going to start making up some new characters. They're all family members of Sean. So this is where it got a little bit weird, to say the least. So now Sean has a brother named Grumpy Sean, and so the girls live for Grumpy Sean.
Grumpy Sean is their favorite.
Grumpy Sean's their favorite. Grumpy Sean will come out. And also, this is a hack if you're triggered and you're grumpy, just play it out in a character. So I use this with the kids. Like, when I'm in a bad mood, I'll just pretend to be Grumpy Sean. And Grumpy Sean will say all the things that I'm actually thinking inside. But then Grumpy Sean's like, it's so loud in here. And why are all these kids so crazy? And like things I'm thinking, but the kids think it's hysterical that Grumpy Sean would ever say such a thing. And then they immediately stop doing whatever they're doing. They come run over and they talk to Grumpy Sean. So Grumpy Sean's thing is that, like, if he ever gets super, super grumpy, he'll get happy.
Yeah, because he loves being grumpy. So
Grumpy Sean loves being grumpy. And so
Jess's characters are so stupid.
Yeah. So when Grumpy Sean gets too grumpy, so like when the kids are like running around and doing stuff that they're not supposed to, it makes him so grumpy that he gets happy. So then they have to try and get him to stop being so happy because he doesn't want to be happy. He wants to be grumpy.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a whole thing, but the girls live for Grumpy Sean. And then I have all these other characters.
Yeah.
Like,
it's got to be close to 10 different characters that you have now that are all related somehow.
Yeah, like Grumpy Sean has a brother who has an earring. It's Earring Sean.
Yep, Earring Sean.
Earring Sean. And then we have Dude Sean, who's a friend. We have LA Chelsea.
When you came back from LA.
Totally different character.
You are so weird.
Yeah, anyway, so this is like the weirdness that goes on inside of our home, and the girls live for it. And anyway, I highly recommend.
Yeah, LA Chelsea has the Valley Girl accent.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it on here.
Really? Why not?
Why not? I feel like I've said enough. Anyway, if you want to connect with your kids, literally try a hand puppet. It's the most simple thing and it will save you. Like, they're crying in the car, boom, your hand puppet's right there. They're having a hard time going to bed, the hand puppet's there.
Yeah.
You want to hear about their day and they don't want to tell you, the hand puppet's there. And they'll remember that. And anyway, that's a way that you can be playful with your kids without causing harm.
Can we call this a parenting hack?
I feel like the hand puppet is my number one tool that
it is, honestly.
I pull from that. And I can't believe we've never talked about it in a podcast. I've talked about it a little bit on Nurtured First, but I have not gone in the depths. I mean, it's too hard on like a 10 carousel slide to be like,
yeah.
And then we have LA Chelsea and Grumpy Sean. Oh, my very favorite Sean, actually, a recent one, Grandpa Sean. He has no teeth, so he looks like this. Yeah. Grandpa Sean, he has no teeth, and he's also very grumpy.
Honestly, these puppets even work on me too.
Well, Scott's always
At this point,
laughing so hard.
I die of laughter every time they come out. Because the girls, it's like our youngest, as soon as Sean comes out or any of the Sean characters come out, she's like, oh, huggy, and then tries to give the Sean a hug, and she's like chattering at the Sean about her day and all these things that she wouldn't do directly to us, but she's explaining to the Sean, and then she tries to like bring Sean around with her, and even the oldest will do that.
Well, and I think what's so incredible, I won't say profound, because I get called out for saying profound too many times.
You just did already, so.
But we know it's profound. What's so profound about Sean, or these other ways that we could play with our kids, is that that's their language, right? That is how kids learn and grow, and that's what they're doing. Like, they're playing with their dolls, they're playing with their toys, and so when you can do something like a Sean, all the girls it works, right? Ages 2, 4, and 7, it works for all of them. You're joining into their world. And that's why they're all of a sudden so willing to talk to you, to sit with you, to bond with you. And I think doing things like the Sean family that I've created, I mean, again, that's me. So we know, like, Jess, it's next level. You know, there's a reason I became a child therapist. It's because my brain's constantly spinning with ideas for kids. You know, I just like love that kind of thing. But the reason that works so well is because now I'm in their world as soon as I'm doing it. And it's also a lazy parent hack because I can just sit and talk to them and they all just sit in front of me.
Yeah, they'll sit crisscross applesauce in front of you and listen.
And I don't have to get up or move or do anything. So it's also perfect if you're lazy like me and you just want to sit there. Anyway, so there is a way to be playful to answer the question that is on their level and that's fun for them and it's not hurtful. And then in terms of the question about teasing, I think there is a way to tease your kids and to bug them a little bit without hurting their feelings. But it is important as a parent to be aware of that line.
I think it's especially if you're in front of others. Like, that's the thing I would say I'm the most careful with. Is if she's in front of friends, classmates, even other family members.
Yeah.
Like, even in front of, let's say, our middle daughter, who's 4, she might start saying the same thing that I say to her older sister.
Yeah.
Right? She might start saying the exact same thing. And it's not as funny coming from someone else. So then...
Right. And like, let's say
that's
Sean.
in the back of my mind.
They might not want Sean when we're picking them up at school drop-off to be hanging out the window, you know?
You should do that, though.
See, I wouldn't. You would maybe find that funny. I would personally find that hilarious to have Sean out the window like, come on, let's go, or I'm picking you up from school. But I would not do that to our oldest daughter because even though she loves Sean in the house... she's not going to necessarily want Sean.
She would actually love that.
I'm going to bet you she'd be embarrassed.
You think?
Yeah, let's ask her tonight.
Yeah, we'll ask her tonight.
I think she would be embarrassed with Sean in front of her friends.
Okay.
Our 4-year-old would not. She would love. Yeah. She would love that. Our 2-year-old, oh my word, she would spend every waking second with Sean if she could. Yeah. She loves Sean.
She likes to cuddle with Sean as she's falling asleep.
Yeah. And when I put her to bed...
So Jess has to contort her arm in order to get our youngest to sleep some nights because she wants to cuddle with Sean like a teddy bear or something like that.
She loves Sean. Yeah. Oh my word, she loves Sean. But I think our oldest would be embarrassed. So like that's the kind of thing where it's like, it's fine within the confines of our own home, in front of our family, but that's not something I'm necessarily going to bring and do in front of her friends unless she's like, introduce my friends to LA Chelsea, then maybe I'll do that.
Chelsea's
right?
So stupid.
And it's the same with anything else that we might do in the home, right? And I also feel like talk to your kids about it. Talk to your kids about, is there anything I do that makes you feel embarrassed?
I think that works for our oldest, but I still don't know that would work super well for our 4-year-old.
No, right? I think she's too young.
So there's like a certain age where all of a sudden they start to understand, like our oldest is now finally at that stage, I would say, only this year, where she could get embarrassed by the things that we do.
Well, embarrassment, again, is a developmental milestone. Like that's a new emotion that we're adding, right? So, and I think that's a new emotion that does come into play more that like 6, 7, 8 age.
Right.
Embarrassment is a whole new thing for kids. And I remember the first time we noticed that our oldest was embarrassed and we were like, oh my goodness, you've never been embarrassed before. This is great. Like this is I was excited for her. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a new emotion for you, right? So also understand that embarrassment is a developmental milestone, but we do want to respect that because it is a rupture to the relationship if you intentionally go out to embarrass your child.
Yeah.
Even though as a parent, you might think this is funny, like you want to yell something embarrassing out the window to them at the school, like I get it. But we want to be respectful if we want to keep the relationship
So are you
intact.
saying that it's better for them developmentally to not have their caregivers or parents embarrassing them?
I think there's a difference between you accidentally embarrass them and you're going to repair and learn from that, and you're intentionally going out of your way to make them feel embarrassed in front of their friends, right? That's to me, that's a rupture.
I do feel like the two of us embarrass ourselves around the girls.
And I personally
graciously
try to do
to.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's almost like we're doing it purposefully to show them that it's not that bad to be embarrassed or do something that's a little bit odd, because what difference does it make?
Well, and I'll go out of my way to tell our daughter stories of times I've been embarrassed and how I dealt with it. I think that's also a really great way to help your kids learn, because they will be embarrassed.
Stories of sameness.
Stories of sameness. It's a way to attach to your kids. But I think stories of sameness in terms of embarrassment will help them, because they will embarrass themselves and you will embarrass them, right? It's not like you will never embarrass your kids. You for sure will. But we just don't need to go out of our way to do that. But telling them the stories of like, oh, this was a time I felt embarrassed and here's how I coped with it, that can help as well.
Yeah.
Truly, playfulness is one of the best ways that you can connect with your kids. We also have our playful guide that could be super helpful.
It's
a playful parent guide. And in our guide, we give you tons of ideas of how to play with your kids. Like I even talk about hand puppets in there. It's very practical. You could just print it out and get lots of ideas of how to be playful.
I guess that is a problem. Like I was even speaking with someone on the phone yesterday about having a hard time relating to their 4-year-old also, like sensitive 4-year-old. And I was trying to guide them through the process of adding fun, playfulness, a little bit of like, not necessarily teasing, but just that playfulness that you can have with your kids at that age.
Yeah.
And how big of a difference that actually makes in attaching and even getting them to go to sleep a little bit easier.
But being a playful parent,
it takes a lot of work if you're not playful to begin with.
It is a skill. And it's going to feel silly at first. Like you've never done a hand puppet before and now you're doing a hand puppet with your kids. It's not going to feel right. It's not going to feel normal. So it's also practicing being playful. Like you'll do something also from Bluey. Let's maybe watch some Bluey. But
honestly, it's pretty... Bluey does have a lot of...
good ideas.
Playful and fun ideas for...
Like you'll turn into a giant monkey. I'll say to the kids, okay, it's daddy's turn to put you to bed. And they'll be like, I don't want daddy to put me to bed. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's not daddy's turn. It's Ooh-Oo's turn. And then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, 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 ooh. And you're like chasing the kids around.
Yep.
And now you're a whole different...
Throwing them over my shoulders. Yeah, you're... bringing them upstairs.
And all of a sudden, oh, yeah, that's fine. Ooh-Ooh can put me to bed. And then all of a sudden, Ooh-Ooh turns into daddy and it's fine.
Yeah.
But so for someone who's never been playful before, turning into a giant monkey might not feel like the most comfortable thing. So do it uncomfortable. Like be uncomfortable the first bunch of times you do it. And it will start to feel more natural as you see your kids love it.
It feels more natural when the endorphins rush through your body as you hear their giggles.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to feel 100% comfortable to start being a playful parent. It might feel awkward, but just try it and see how your kids respond.
During the summer when our windows are open, I have slight concerns of what people think is going on in our house sometimes after dinner, because
we have a very playful home.
The amount of screams that are going on in our house.
Well, we have Ooh-Ooh as a monkey. We've got Sean talking to the kids.
Yeah. Honestly, Bluey has a ton of fun, playful like games for parents to
lots of
to
ideas
use, right?
in there. Sponsor us, Bluey. Need I say more?
Need I say more?
Oh, and then I also sometimes turn into Creepy Mommy.
Oh, yeah. Creepy Mommy is...
Creepy Mommy's a bit much.
No, I love Creepy Mommy.
Do
That's
you?
the funniest.
Yeah, Creepy Mommy has like... We're Dutch, so she has like a Dutch accent,
she
but it's
does not
terrible.
It's the worst. It's like a mixture of every European accent.
Yeah, I try and give her like an old grandma like Dutch accent, but it doesn't really work.
Yeah. And
she's also my inner voice, like when I'm mad. So I have Grumpy Sean, but I also have Creepy Mommy. They're married.
Oh, yeah.
But
I forgot about that connection.
Like whenever I'm really annoyed with the girls, I'll be like, Creepy Mommy. And I'll start being Creepy Mommy. And then they stop doing whatever thing that they're annoying me with. And then they just are like, Creepy Mommy, can you say this?
Yeah.
And it honestly works so well. It regulates me. It completely flips my mood and their mood.
That is probably the most unhinged character that you have.
I can't believe I'm admitting to Creepy Mommy on the pod. I'm not going to do the character for you guys. You really would have to beg me to do that character for you.
Oh, I'm sure they will now.
It's a bit much.
That's hilarious.
But Creepy Mommy, she'll even say things to the kids like, shut it, which is not... But we've We've told the kids only creepy mommy can say shut it. And it's really quite funny.
And they all feign surprise every time creepy mommy says shut it to them. And it's so funny.
Yeah, creepy mommy, she's a lot. But again, it gets on their level and it totally transforms a mood. Like, creepy mommy will come out when everybody's in a terrible mood, nothing's going well, they're all screaming at each other. She'll just go, creepy mommy says shut it. And the girls will all just like, what?
You're going to keep that in?
Well, I might crop it. We'll see.
Oh my goodness.
We'll see what the team thinks.
I'm embarrassed for you, actually, in this one.
I should maybe be more embarrassed. Anyway, so moral of the story is, yes, be playful with your kids. Yes, there is a place for like playful joking within the relationship that you have with your kid, but know your kid. Tune in with them. Don't make comments about things like their weight or their appearance or their intelligence. And if you grew up in a teasing family where you were hurt by the teasing, know that that makes sense. Teasing isn't always funny. And so having that boundary with your kids and tuning in with them is the most important thing.
Yeah. And I think as they get older, you'll be able to have more complex humor with them. Definitely, we can see that already with our oldest.
Yeah, the complexity will come. Humor is a skill. It will develop over time. And also for you, if you don't feel humorous or funny or playful, you can try it. Like, you can try a couple of strategies we talked about today. You could use the playful guide and just choose like one thing from the playful guide that you want to try and just try it as it feels uncomfortable, and it will become more comfortable to be a playful parent.
I think it's just something that you definitely have to learn. It's not something that was not the default for me originally.
I feel like you are the most playful dad.
I am now, yeah, definitely.
Now, but it took you time.
Yeah.
It took you like being ooh a couple times and realizing how much that they're going to love it.
Yeah.
And I feel like now the playfulness in our home, like someone should do a reality show about like the goofiness that goes on inside of our. No, they shouldn't, because it would be very embarrassing.
Yeah, that would be too embarrassing for me.
That's our line. We'd be embarrassed then. Yeah,
exactly.
I probably embarrassed myself enough for today.
Yep.
Anyway, let us know if you want more on the topic of playfulness. It's literally one of my favorite topics. I think that's like why I became a child therapist, because I just love this topic so much. Yeah, talk to you next week. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this one. Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We are glad that you are here. If you enjoyed today's episode and found it interesting, we'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a rating and a review. Scott and I actually sit down together and read them all. A 5-star rating helps us share our podcast and get these important messages out there. Thank you so much for listening, and we can't wait to talk to you again next time.